Hey out there, it's Sven. So in today's video I'm going to be comparing and contrasting the differences between two different knives. First off, we have the USMC KA-BAR straight edge full-sized combat knife in leather furniture. I'll talk more about that leather decision in a second here. And then second is the Cold Steel SRK straight edge as well. And this one is in a composite synthetic material. So both of these are the same sort of idea. For military application, this is the standard issue knife of the U.S. Navy SEALs for part of their training operations. And this one right here, as you can see, says USMC for U.S. Marine Corps, as it was, as far as I know, is not anymore, but it may still be the standard issue knife that was used in World War II and Vietnam and Korea and that sort of thing by the U.S. Marines. As for the survival aspect, well, obviously out in the woods or jungle, I guess, wherever you were, you needed a knife to survive with, so that was the purpose of this. And I mean, this one says it in the name, survival rescue knife. As for rescue, well, cutting ropes, cutting seat belts, stuff like that, useful to have a knife in rescue situations. So why am I showing the leather version instead of the composite version? Because KA-BAR does offer composite sheaths and handles. I believe it's a craton handle and some sheath the same that's kind of like this. Krylex might be the word, I'm not 100% sure. Regardless, KA-BAR does offer one with that furniture setup. I'm not showing one of those today because I've only bought one in my life, and the purpose for me buying it was to give it as a gift to somebody as a birthday present, and I followed through on that. So all I have is the leather version. And as you can see, a very, very well used leather version. These come in a chocolate brown, like a light chocolate, milk chocolate brown color. This one is just very old and used. So anyway, the goal here is to be telling you some things about them so you can better inform yourself as to which one you might want to buy for a like sidearm or a survival rescue combat knife. So let's start off with price. The Cold Steel SRK retails for anywhere between $35 and $55, depending on where you find it. Looking on Amazon, I believe they are about $50 some right now. But I got this one at a retail store for about $38. The KA-BAR, on the other hand, goes for much more. A while ago, I saw them as low as $60, but currently on Amazon, they are about $90 to $100. So about twice the price, depending. But they do also make the SRK in different steels, which can also go for higher prices. This one, as you might be able to see, is in SK5 steel, and this one is in 1095 Crovan steel. I'll tell you right now, I am personally more of a fan of the Crovan steel than I am of the SK5. Both are decent steels, but in my experience, the Crovan has been better. So anyway, I'll move the sheaths out of the way for now because I'm going to talk about them later. And for now, we're just going to focus on the knives. We're going to start from the tip and then move back down towards the pommel and go from there. So first thing you can notice on the SRK is it has sort of a Bowie clip point right here that is very slightly beveled but not sharp at all. For better or worse, whichever you prefer. It does have a very, very fine point that's super good for stabbing with. And that's useful, but one of the drawbacks is this thin steel often will snap. That's the biggest complaint I see with the SRK, is the tip snaps on them. Compare that to the USMC KA-BAR, and you see it has a much thinner, sharper edge, which with a much deeper bevel. And as far as I understand it, it's not actually that hard to make these false edges razor sharp. The tip is less pointy, but still definitely pointy enough. And in my experience, much stronger because it has more meat behind it due to the belly of this edge. So I'm going to be giving a point to this one for durability. The I should say the name. The KA-BAR for durability, but in terms of actual penetrating power, I would choose the SRK. Really up to you. Just be mindful that at least in the SK5 steel, this tip tends to be pretty weak, but you can get it in like Sanmai steel and several other different steel types. They just go for a lot more. Moving down the blade a little bit to this section, one notable thing is you have a fuller here. It really is just aesthetic. It does save on some weight, and it makes the balance point a little different, but I'll talk more on that when I get towards the middle section. This blade is longer. It's a 7-inch blade, while the SRK is a 6-inch blade. So you get 1 more inch of penetration in a stab, and also 1 more inch of chopping power with the KA-BAR. Sorry, I just got a bit of heartburn. Anyway, that being said, the KA-BAR's balance point is right about just behind the handguard, while the SRK's balance point is above the handguard. So it feels more choppy, but the KA-BAR is still more choppy, just due to the length. It definitely is more handle heavy, but still really comfortable and really good for chopping. The KA-BAR not only has a longer blade, but it also has a wider blade, for whatever that's worth. I should say right now, I really love both knives. I carried this every single day for, well, since I was 7 years old, just about, and I am 26 now, so quite a while I've been carrying this. I've dove with it like well below 30 feet several times, both in freshwater and saltwater. And again, this is the leather version. I've chopped down so many trees, I've thrown it into so many trees. I've even taken the handle and used it for flint knapping. This is a very durable knife. But I'll save more on that for the final sort of ending. The blade, though, holds an edge really well. The grind is not quite as steep as you might expect, but it can still get razor sharp. But because it's not super shallow, it holds an edge quite well. It can take a lot of abuse. I've batoned with a hammer on the back of this in my younger years through really hard wood over and over. And as you can see, it's not even really dented on the back. The finish did come off after the years. This was straight black, but after so much abuse, the finish eventually came off. But even still, it's been resisting rust extremely well. Contrast that to the SRK. It's just a lighter feeling knife. I haven't used it quite as extensively, but as you can see, the bevel is quite shallow. It even feels slightly hollow ground, so you can get a really fine edge on that quite easily. But I do suspect that it will dull faster than the KA-BAR here. So take that for whatever it's worth. But in some situations, this shorter knife could be more useful. That being said, Ka-Bar does make a shorter version. I think they make a 5-inch blade version over the full 7-inch blade version. But so far, this has proved very useful. I've been carrying it for a couple days, a couple months actually, and I'll talk more on that towards the end. And so far, I've liked it. Only thing is already the handle, the hand guard here got a little split on me. I don't even know how that happened, so I guess we'll move there. The handle on the Ka-Bar, as far as I know, is pressed steel, where they take sort of a powder steel and they put it in a mold and then heat it to a very high temperature and then compress it with massive amounts of force to sort of make it into this shape. And it's bent on me for sure. I mean, you can see I've bent it a couple times back, but it still hasn't broken. It's gotten loose on me, but to fix that, I just took a piece of artificial sinew and put it in there and wrapped around, and that tightened it back up. You can also see I did that on the pommel. I'll talk more about that when I get to it. But altogether, this provides more protection. Not that you get much protection on a knife. It's definitely very adequate for stopping your hand from going beyond anything in stabbing motions. And altogether, I really like it. Super durable, and just good quality. The SRK has a very comfortable feel in the hand as well. You don't have any arms sticking out of the back, which is useful if you want to stick your thumb here. That's not something you can very easily do on the Ka-Bar. This really gets in the way if you try and get your thumb up there for fine work. It does have a pretty good non-sharpened section here, ricasso area, so you can get your hand up there for a little bit more control, but you can't really comfortably put your thumb on the back here. And this is kind of comfortable, but nothing near compared to the SRK, where you can easily put your thumb on like that. That being said, the ricasso is a lot smaller, so if you do this, you're much more likely to get cut for whatever that's worth to you. Not a super big deal, but you know. The other bit is this is flexible, so it's going to stop your hand for the most part if you stab something hard, but you can't expect it to potentially get cut one day like this one did. And one could make the argument that on a hard stab, you have nothing to keep your hand from going in the back, and you could potentially pop over because it's soft. I don't think that's much of a problem, but something to keep in mind. Moving down to the handle on the SRK is more square, it's more boxy, and it has this really deep grip texture, which I personally really like. It is extremely comfortable. It's very easy. It's very, very grippy. Like, this is not going to be pulled out of your hand unless you want it to be. And it's easy to index which way the blade is facing. So you can always keep the blade facing forward in any direction. Pretty easy to maneuver in the hands. I personally have more experience maneuvering the Ka-Bar, but the Ka-Bar, with its slightly rounded grip, it's not completely rounded, but with its slightly rounded grip, is going to be slightly harder to index and keep indexed. So that's a point against it with slashing. It's still not hard because, like, this feels wrong. It is wider in this direction than it is this one, but that is just something to keep in mind. Still a really comfortable handle. The leather version is more slippery than this version. I can't speak to than the super grippy synthetic. I can't speak too much for the non-synthetic. It's been a couple years since 2018, since I felt a synthetic handled Ka-Bar. But I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that this super grippy texture is still a better grip on the Ka-Bar. That being said, I've never had problems with the K-bar grip. So take that for what it's worth. This is the stacked leather handle. As you can see, it's darkened a lot in the years, but it still feels really good. Everything's tight, nothing's bad. It did get loose a couple times, hence where I put the string on and wrapped it just to get some pressure, and now everything's solid and tight again. Really good. The tang on the USMC KA-BAR goes all the way through to the end here, and then a pin is put through the pommel to hold on to it better. So it's really secure. I found this method extremely strong. It's not just a simple rat tail. I mean, you can see it's still pretty wide even at the pommel end. Meanwhile, the SRK, I would reckon, goes probably down to here. It's almost like maybe a 3/4 tang, but you can bend the very end of the pommel. It's hard to see on camera, but you can bend it, which indicates to me that the pommel doesn't go all the way through. That being said, I don't foresee it being a problem unless you start hammering on it here or something, but just something to be aware of if you really care about like full tangs. K-bar might be better if you don't matter, or that don't matter to you, because this is still a really strong handle. You might want to go for the SRK. As for actual pommel, well, this one has a cord loop. I've never used cord loops on these really, on knives, so make with that what you will. If you want a cord loop, the SRK is your guy because the K-bar does not have any. You could technically wrap a cord around the big pommel, but I guess you could do that, but it's not quite as dedicated as this actual brass cord loop. It has a soft pommel. I say it's pretty hard. Like, if you got pommel smacked by it, it will still knock you out. But if you were to whack it with another knife, you'd cut into it. It's soft and grippy. So it doesn't really have so much of a pommel as it does a swell. It's perfectly serviceable, no problems. But yeah, very simple, very easy. The K-bar's pommel is made the same way as the hand grip. As far as I recall, it's just that powdered steel that's super heavily pressed under high heat conditions to make this metal pommel, and I could have never told that that was how it was made. It feels like solid metal to me. And as I said, I've literally gone out in the bush and took my K-bar like this and used it to flint knap rocks to make arrowheads and stuff. So it's strong. I mean, it did get loose on me once, but I did wrap it with the sinew right in between the right in between these sort of grooves, and it fixed it right up. So in terms of that, this pommel is very useful. It's big and wide, so if you ever need to drive it down into something, you have a good place for your hand to push on. That's not to say you don't on this one too, but this one is a lot smaller compared to the K-bar, which gives you a really wide pommel for that. It also makes it good for maneuvering, kind of hard to do with the camera in the way, but it feels good. You can swing with it. Like, it's hard to lose grip of it that way. So yeah, I really like the K-bar. That isn't to say I don't like the SRK. I really love the SRK. It's super useful for what it is. And it's important to note that you could practically buy 2 of these for the price of 1 of these. So one's probably going to be better, but regardless, let's move on to sheaths quick because this video is getting pretty long. Sheaths could be a wash because, as I said, K-bar does offer the synthetic sheath like this, as well as a synthetic handle, but I'm going to be talking about the difference between the leather sheath because the SRK does not offer a leather sheath, so you can only have this style. This leather sheath is by far probably the best. I say by far probably, it's a little funky. It is by far the best leather sheath I've ever felt in my entire life. The majority of knives you buy online come with these crappy, very, very low quality, genuine top grade leather. That's just horrible. This is not. This is extremely good quality leather. It's very thick, very durable. As I said, I've had this for over 10 years. Would that be about 10 years now? And it's been on my belt every single day through slush, sleet, salt water, rainwater, doesn't matter. I never treated this thing with anything other than like Picard leather dressing. And the leather is no worse for wear. It's still perfect. It looks kind of beat up, but it's still just as strong as the day I got it. It's really nuts. Best leather sheath I've ever felt. And I wouldn't go diving with it in the ocean every single day and then not wash it or anything. But I have dove with this in the ocean several times. I've dove with this in Lake Michigan countless times. I've dove with this in lakes countless times. For hours and hours and hours and hours on end. This thing probably has, if I were to reckon at least over the years, I would say at least 3, maybe 5 months of complete submersion, and it's completely fine. Obviously, a synthetic sheath is going to be completely fine as well. Even in salt water, this shouldn't care. It does have some metal features, but this is going to hold up to weather much better. Though I do feel like this synthetic back might not last quite as long. That's speculation, I don't know. But I can definitely see this material ripping or wearing out, ironically, faster than the KA-BAR leather. I do like, though, that this has an option for a Velcro and a button. In case this button ever breaks, the Velcro will work. And I also like that you can take this off like this and then put it onto your belt and not have to take your belt off with the KA-BAR. That is very useful. It's very nice, and I do prefer that about it. Also, because of the synthetic sheath style, you have multiple different mounting points and configurations. This sheath holds the SRK extremely, extremely well. I would not mind not having this at all and hanging it off my back like this. I wouldn't mind. I'd know it would still be there because it holds it extremely well. Like, you can see how much force I need to put in order to hold it, or in order to pull it out. This is a very nice sheath in of itself. This is just for extra protection, but you definitely don't need it. The KA-BAR sheath, well, with the leather anyway, it's obviously not going to hold it at all. That's just not how leather sheaths work. However, this brass button still clicks very well and holds very well after like these 10 years of use. So again, best quality knife sheath I've ever owned. Super, super nice. But all in all, personally, if I had to trust my life to one, I'd trust my life to the KA-BAR. But that being said, the SRK is not a bad option at all. I would trust my life to this. Indeed, I'm actually starting to carry this instead of my KA-BAR, simply because this KA-BAR was given to me by my grandpa as a Christmas present way back when I was like 7 years old. As I said, I'm 26 now, and he passed away not too long ago. and I would very much hate to break this knife after all it's been through, as it's one of my last memories of him. So I've more or less retired this, as much as I love it, and started to carry the SRK instead. And I've had basically nothing but high good thoughts of it, or high regards for this knife. It's been perfect throughout all of that. So yeah, if you want a cheaper version that works basically just as well, I would choose the SRK. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want to spend a little bit more money for something that, in my opinion, looks a lot more timeless, very beautiful, more, in my opinion, more functional, get a K-bar. So hopefully that helps. Didn't have a script for any of this, just sort of went through and gave my opinions. Take it for whatever it's worth. But hope you all enjoyed, and catch you on the next one. Bye. Hey-do.